Hello YouTube, my name is Jesse, aka Flesh and Bludgets, and I am here with you all for my Oldhim deck tech. Oldhim was going to be the hero that I brought to that Gold Foil Commoner event. As you'll see from the two deck links provided, and or look up my name in February, Flesh and Budgets. Hopefully by the time this video is live, I don't screw up like last time and have them available for you all to view in the public, opposed to just link only. And then you all can see the wonderful win rate that this Oldhim fatigue list has. I believe it was 90% roughly for both lists, but the one post Enigma, Enigma's scary. That is why I brought Enigma. She is the boogeyman to this deck. So if you look at the Old Man Commoner list, which was the one pre-Enigma, that one got some changes to make this Oldhim list a little bit more fast. So that I can deal with the spectral shields being established a little bit better. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, Oldhim is an elemental guardian hero. He has the effect once per turn, pay 3, and then if an earth card was pitched, you'll prevent the next 2 damage. If an ice card was pitched, you will have them take a card and put it on top of your deck in the reaction window. So, for instance, rip my Icelander fans, Amulet of Ice is banned, but it's here as the ice for the demonstration in this video. This Autumn's Touch is red, and this Amulet of Ice is blue. If you would inefficiently pitch to Oldhim's effect when you pitch, then you would get both effects simultaneously. This deck is ignoring ice. Not that it's not strong, but I am a fatigue focused player as Guardian, and that is why we are on an all earth defensive package. So let's get on to that. We've got Autumn's Touch, your best blue earth card. It costs 3, so it works well with your Titan's Fist, and it's a blue block 3. Then we've got Break Ground, Earth. Unfortunately, it only blocks 2, but the upside, it does cost 3, so it makes your Titan's Fist 4. And then we've got So Tomorrow. So Tomorrow, if you block with it, it is a non-attack, which is nice. But you're mainly using it for its effect, second and or third cycle, to get back like a red Glacial Footsteps. Because So Tomorrow's effect is put an earth or elemental action card with cost 2 or greater at when it's blue to the bottom of your deck, banish the So Tomorrow, and then if it was played from Arsenal, draw a card. So often, if you're doing this first cycle, you might not draw into another blue to swing Hammer, and that's okay. You'll just use it with your Helm of Eisen Peak. To then arsenal that red, and I mean you could still pitch the red because you'd have 2 floating, but typically I prefer to arsenal the red, pop the helm, and go to 5 intellect thanks to the Helm of Eisen Peak. And then lastly, one of these 2 cards, I opted for Bird Ring because it's pretty. It has a full art extended version, but I think Earthlore Surge might be the better option because it's a non-attack. It has Go Again, so it can help you utilize like large clunky hands. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards Earthlore Surge, but Burgeoning because pretty. Mainly just want another Earth. They both block 2. To have 7 Earths, because I found that that's kind of the nice number. With 7, it's 56% chance first cycle that you'll see one in your hand. And then if you're only at 6, which you could just run the 6, it's 50. But just having, more Earths is slightly better to help deal with, in my opinion, the best deck in the format, Ira. And it was shown in the top tables there. So, on to the equipment. As mentioned, we're mainly on Titan's Fist. Um, we're going to pair that with Steel Braid Buckler and or Bastion of Duty. Um, both are just Temper 2. You'll probably want Civic Duty from the Brevant Structure deck. So you'll probably have this just lying around. I happen to just have a Cold Foil Steel Braid Buckler because I'm a Guardian main, so it exists. And then we've got the Civic Duty as mentioned. Civic Duty has the effect of whenever this defends, create a Vigor token under your opponent's control, or under another hero's control. So it can't be your control, it goes to your opponent. So it's great anti Kodachi tech. If your opponent doesn't have a 1-cost go again, or like a 1-cost reaction, they can't give their Kodachis go again. It's quite wonderful. So what I typically do is try to not block with this until second cycle if you can, because then they should be out of their 1-for-4 go agains. And you should be able to just brick an Iris turn. And that helps you win the game because you're only then needing to block for 5 or 6, depending what they throw. You might then opt to take some damage, and then ideally that's when your Glacial Footsteps turn happens and you can just smack them back in the face. And then on to the controversial stuff. I'm on Ironhide legs and Ironhide gauntlets. You could potentially just do Iron Rod as well. I like having both of these 1-cost pay effects. It's not as good now that I'm not on Oasis, because typically that would be you have Oasis in hand, pitch a blue, and you get all 3. But what I've been using it for recently is just using these 2 on the first turn. I can't get full value out of a Springboard Somersault because my arsenal might be clogged. And then I can see that Springboard Somersault around for second cycle, which is quite useful. Not on Civic Steps. Civic Steps is a fine card. It's just that a lot of people enjoy Go Again in this commoner meta, so I'd rather not just give my opponent free Go Again. Then on to the card that I couldn't find, this lovely Helm of Eisen Peak. This is just the stand-in for it. Obviously, can't run Arcanite Skull Captain Commoner, but hopefully through the power of editing, I can kind of track this with the Helm of the Eisen Peak to show you its effect. Action, 1-cost, destroy it. You go to 5 intellect until the end of the turn. So as mentioned, you pair it with Sotomorrow if you draw into a red, or Zealous Belting is the other option I like to pair it with. You have Zealous Belting, your 6-cost, or 6 power or higher, rather, to give Zealous Belting Go Again. And then you have 1 resource floating, you pop it with your Helm, go to 5 intellect. And then this is what you bring into pretty much every physical matchup. When you're facing a Rune Blade, you just swap these out for your null rune pieces of equipment, the head and the chest. Because I like to be able to block Rosetta by pitching a blue, use one of my pieces of equipment to block. Well, you'll prevent the 2, 1 floating, and you just throw one of your either legs or gloves in the way of Rosetta, and then with that 1 floating, congratulations, you've blocked it. And then if we're facing a wizard, obviously, similar to Enigma, we just go 2 more null rune pieces. I don't opt for null 5. I see some lists that do opt for null 5, adding in the Arcanite Lantern or Arcane Lantern. I just prefer not to, because I'd rather have that 1 extra sideboard slot to put in another Zealous Belting, is what I found. And then the last piece of equipment we have is Sledge. Sledge is there for Enigma and for the Guardian Mirrors. Oldhim doesn't have a way to offensively overpitch, so when you have two blues, having Sledge versus, where's my Anathos? Here's my Anathos. Is quite nice. And then also Sledge still pairs well with Zealous. So it's not a bad card. And then also on that note, why I'm not running Civic Steps, because Guardians love Go Again. In the mirror, you never want to block with them, because if you do end up blocking with them, your opponent will likely then hit you with Sledge. And yeah, it sucks. Coming from the Guardian side of it, that is the main reason why I preferred having just Ironhide legs. So that is all the equipment. Move that off to the side. Sorry for the extra noise. If you couldn't tell, I got a new mic, so hopefully people can understand me a little bit better. But on to the other defensive stuff that we have. Similar to Enigma, we're running a lot of blues, so we can afford to play blue unmovable. As mentioned with the Ironhide pieces of equipment, we've got the 2 springboard somersault, and then standard in pretty much any defensive deck, 2 sync, 2 fate. That's what I have in the new version of the list. In the old version of the list, I had Oasis Respite and a Test of Strength, and then I would alternate essentially between those two, and that was why I wasn't on Arcanite Lantern then, so that I could afford to have the sideboard slot to swap these in and out. And in the Warrior matchup, typically both just came in, and I would just take out, I don't know, some random blue 5, blue 6, because if it lines up, Test of Strength is nice against Decimator, because they'll typically be pumping it. But if not, it blocks 2 like the rest of your cards, and you'll probably win the clash. So the gold is nice to just be able to float a resource to help clear your arsenal if you arsenal a 4 for 6, or if you arsenal Macho Grande, which I personally do not recommend. So on to that note, we'll go to the core of the deck, being pretty much just Guardian blues. You've got your best blue in Glacial Footsteps. It's just efficient blue damage. 6 cost 8. You'll get typically 2 cards for your 1. Great for fatigue. Blue Macho Grande. I try not to arsenal this or the 4 for 6s, because it's just hard to justify keeping as many cards as you need to swing with Macho Grande. The 4 for 6s are a little bit more forgiving, because you only need 2 cards opposed to needing 3 for Macho. So then, on that note, 4 for 6s, we've got Chokeslam, Debilitate, Buckling Blow, and Mulch. They're just there because they're poppers, and since we're on Zealous Belting, we need... Oh, you can't really see the mulch. Mulch we'll throw over there. They're 4 for 6s to turn on Zealous Belting, and they're poppers for if you see a Dromai and or Prism. They're nice to have the extra poppers. Same reason why we're playing Thunk. If there's one card to absolutely not arsenal, it's Thunk. Terrible rate when you're attacking with it. And you kind of want to have it be either pitched or blocked with, because it has that bonus if you're on Test of Strength to win that clash, which actually happened once in those 50 games, so that was kind of cool. Getting that extra might token is kind of funny. So that's the bulk of the blues, but we still have 2 more in Entangle. Uh, this is a 3-cost 5 because we don't have any more 6s, 7s, or 8s that we can run. But it does have an Earth Fusion. We're on 7 Earths, so typically the Earth Fusion's fairly relevant. It makes your opponent have to block 5, otherwise their first attack has -2. So pairing an Entangle when you're on second cycle with a So Tomorrow, because you want that in Arsenal, or a Burgeoning, or potentially Earthlore Surge, is quite nice to then hit them for 5, where they have to give you some cards, and then if they give you cards at all, we're happy, because then that's less cards you have to block with, which means that we're typically throwing Hammer the next turn to just close the game that much faster. And then the last blue, I don't know why I didn't have this in my initial Enigma deck, Battlefront Bastion. Great card, especially for Oldhim when you're facing an Ira. Their first coda, you just Earth React, take no damage. Second coda, you block with Battlefront Bastion for 2. You now have 2 floating prevention. And then the third attack is probably going to be a 1 for 5. You just block for 3 with any of your lovely 3 blocks that we have, plus more. And you just cleanly block it out. So you take nothing. You lost 2 cards from your deck for their 1, and then you hit them in the face with your Hammer for 4, because you still only use 3 cards for that. And then that took no cards from your deck, probably took 1 from them, and then they either took 1 or nothing if they were on, pending what they were on. So that's the blues. Then, as mentioned, this deck has a little bit of offensive power outside of Titan's Fist for 4, and or Sledge for 6, and that would be these lovely red attacks here. Zealous Belting ×2, the other one is off to the side somewhere. Glacial Footsteps ×2, the other one's next to my So Tomorrow. These two typically stay in every matchup. I typically will actually cut 1 Zealous Belting if it's going to be a very fatigue or very I need to block matchup. And then if I need to be aggressive, I will put in the second Zealous and take out either a Fate Foreseen or a Springboard Somersault, or one of these Battlefront Bastions, because they also only block for 2. So on that note, the remaining 6 cards are 2 Battlefront Bastion Reds, because they're great to block with into Ira. They're also 7 attacks when you're attacking. That's kind of where they sit. Might become a different 3 for 7 that you want to run, but I like it because it's somewhat offensive, but it's also got that great defense potential into Ira. To Crush the Weak, this is for anti-fi and or other ninjas that are kind of low to the ground. It performs quite well. Definitely recommend having these 2 as your 3 for 7s in the deck. And then the last 3 for 7 is Red Cartilage Crush. Akin to just giving your opponent a Frostbite, Cartilage Crush has on Crush. Their first action costs an additional 1. And then Crush the Weak has, if Crush the Weak deals 4 or more damage, your opponent cannot attack or play attack action cards with 3 or less base power. So that's why it's anti-fi / other low power attack decks. So on that note, that's the Oldhim deck list. Sorry for the delay. I recorded a couple times, and with this new mic, it just wasn't gathering the audio. So I had to troubleshoot and figure out why that was. Essentially, I changed what screen capture service I was using to be able to find my mic in the registry. Hopefully we'll have another deck video out in the next 2 weeks. Ideally, after the week of launch, people will comment what they want to see, and I'll do it based on that. So please comment, subscribe, and if no one comments on a deck they want to see, it'll probably just end up being Ira, because she, in my opinion, is the boogeyman of this commoner format. I don't know what LSS can do to hit her that won't hurt the other ninjas, unfortunately. But yeah, with that, I hope y'all have a lovely day, and I'll see y'all in the next video.